Welcome back to another episode of the Rossetti and Stewart Podcast. He's Antonio Rossetti. I'm Justin Stewart. We're coming from you from the Pittsburgh Media Hub here in downtown Pittsburgh. Just a reminder, you can find our show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. Just search the Rossetti and Stewart Podcast. Antonio, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. You know, it's been a good weekend so far. Watched the Penguins yesterday blow a 4-2 lead. They outshot the Islanders by 14 shots and lost. I just watched some hockey. Watched Connor McDavid score his 100th point last night. But that's about all that's going on with me. Got a new PR on bench at 280. If you guys don't believe me, I could post a video about it, etc. But here's the thing. My weekend's been doing pretty good. How about you, Justin?
Pretty solid. You know, school, it is what it is, though, but work was pretty quick. I will give it that. So that's always a plus when your shifts at work go by pretty fast. So, you know, that was my week in a nutshell. You know, spring break's coming up for Point Park students here, so I will happily take 1 week off from this school. No offense. But just jumping right, you wanted to say something?
Oh, no, I was just looking at you.
Okay, just making sure. But I guess we can just jump in. Did you have any quick hitters for this week or not so much?
Quick hitters. Jabari Smith said he could beat Michael Jordan one-on-one.
Well, he's just joking.
Yeah.
He's not being serious.
But but other than that, just Connor McDavid. So I have two since I talk hockey.
No.
Connor McDavid scored his 100th point, and they still managed to blow a 4-1 lead to the Rangers last night. But congratulations on the 100th point. That happened pretty quickly, 56 games. And then another quick hitter, big move. Ryan O'Reilly is getting traded to Toronto with Noel Acciari. And, they're both going to Toronto for a lot of picks and Mikhail Abramov and Gaudette as well. Blues get picks out of it, which is probably what they should have done because O'Reilly's not going to come back. So, hey, you got your picks out of it. But Toronto, great pickup. They needed that extra gritty player, that guy who could, battle for the tip-ins in front of the net and just has that presence on a team and in a locker room. Was the captain for quite some time in St. Louis. So this is a good pickup for Toronto, a team that definitely needs another gritty player in the playoffs, someone who's feisty, who wins the small battles, the board battles, whatever it may be, a good face-off player. Listen, he's not having a great year, but the team is just not good who he's on. Now you're going to put him on a team who has Austin Matthews, John Tavares, Mitch Marner, William Nylander coming to his own this year. I mean, just a solid overall team. Even defense, you have Morgan Riley and Mark Giordano. So this is going to help a ton. That's my quick hitter this week. Ryan O'Reilly to Toronto. Question is, can they get out of the first round with this team? I believe so, but I have to see it with my own eyes.
Fair enough. I also have two quick hitters this week too. So my first one is on Derek Carr. So obviously the Raiders cut him earlier this week. And as far as I know, the Saints and Jets are the two most interested teams in his services so far. And I think he'd help both teams, but I think he'd be a better fit with the Jets because the Jets are younger. They have more cap space, and I think they're just more talented, honestly. But besides the point, though, so I was on Twitter, and Jason Smith and Mike Harmon, they have a show on Fox Sports Radio. And this was populated across my timeline. They thought that the Steelers should sign Derek Carr and get rid of Kenny Pickett. Oh, gosh. I'll give you the quote exactly. So Jason Smith said, if the Steelers get Derek Carr, they're playing deep into the playoffs. They can't go into next season with Kenny Pickett. Carr is accurate, and the Steelers have two good running backs and playmakers. When things get a little tough in Pittsburgh, he'll still be okay because Mike Tomlin will have his back and everything will be all right. Pittsburgh is the place for Derek Carr. Mike Harmon, his partner. I don't know how quick they'll be to want to turn the page on Pickett, but the reality is I don't value the talent. I value the organization and the stability that gets you to grind it out and always be the mix at 500. I think you're valuing their receivers higher than I do. Okay, so here's the problem with that. So, first of all, Derek Carr is going to be 32 this upcoming season. He posted the lowest QBR rating of his career this past season. His interception percentage was the highest of his career, and he's known for not turning the ball over. He threw the most interceptions of his career this past year, with Devontae Adams, by the way. And he had his lowest completion percentage since his rookie year. And last but not least, he's the least amount of first down plays of his entire career as quarterback. So I said all that to tell you that the fact that you'd move on from Kenny Pickett after 1 year is absolutely the most ridiculous thing I've heard all year as far as sports.
One more stat.
Oh, what is the stat? I forgot.
Derek Carr is 0-1 against Kenny Pickett QB for his QB record.
Yeah, that is true too. That is true. But listen, I've said my thing on Kenny Pickett. I've been labeled a lot of things in my analysis of him, but I would rather have him right down than Derek Carr. Derek Carr is on the downside of his career. Kenny Pickett's only going to get better as we speak in the years coming. So, no, the fact that, first of all, your first sentence, the Steelers get Derek Carr, they're not going deep in the playoffs. What? They would. Kenny Pickett would probably take them deeper, honestly, and that's not even like an opinion. It's a fact, I think. So Kenny Pickett also was kind of clutch last year. 2 games stand out in particular. You have the Ravens game, drove down the field with less than a minute left. And then you have the Raiders game on Christmas Eve where he scored, threw the touchdown to George Pickens with less than 40 seconds left. So Kenny Pickett's also going to be cheaper too, and he's like 8 years younger. So, yeah, I just don't understand the pick. I do understand the Pickett dislike. A lot of people, that's like their talking point. You get small hands, and there's just nothing special about him. Well, I mean, last time I checked, people said there was nothing really special about Tom Brady either. So, it's just just because he doesn't have the biggest arm in the world. And by the way, he does have a good arm. Just watch the tape at Pitt. Just because he doesn't run the fastest like Lamar Jackson, that doesn't mean he's a special player in his own right. He has his own intangibles. I think he'll be very good leader. Guys around him in the locker room respect him, and he wants to get better. So that's really all I care about, and I really don't care about Derek Carr at this point. He's kind of washed. So thank you very much.
Yeah, and I agree with everything pretty much you said on that, because Kenny Pickett really did show in the second half of the season that he can win football games.
Yeah.
And he's only getting he's still younger. He's only going to get better at this point. So, and I'm saying that through an unbiased lens, and I do want to add too, if you watch Pitt from last year, he can throw the ball deep. Kenny Pickett. Mm-hmm. He's proven it. I mean, he played in an air raid kind of offense with Mark Whipple. Meanwhile, the Steelers are going with this ground and pound stuff, and I just I don't know. My friend and I were talking. If you look at the personnel, yes, Najee is a great running back, but this team's personnel is not a run-first team. If you have George Pickens, Deontay Johnson, and Pat Freiermuth, those are 3 solid options for years to come because they're all going to be under contract control. So here's the thing. That this team should not be doing that. I mean, look at some of the over-the-shoulder throws he's made to Addison. You have someone in George Pickens can do that. I mean, he found Claypool in that deep threat. George Pickens can be a deep threat. He can go deep. And plus, if you get a wide receiver in the draft, let's just say you snag a wide receiver 3rd or 4th round, for example, or even 2nd round, A.T. Perry wants to come to the Steelers. So, if you get another receiver like A.T. Perry as well, they're going to be set in that position. But and you also have Kelvin Austin, too. Mm-hmm. So, the team is loaded on wide receivers, and for some reason, I just feel like they don't take any risks. There's some games, even the game-winning drives, Ravens, Raiders. I really believe that if they're not so conservative, that they could win those games by 2 scores. I feel like they had chances. They outplayed their opponent in both games, and their defense shut down the Ravens and Raiders in both games. But it had to come down to a final last-minute thing, and it was only let's get real. It was only because Kenny Pickett got to really call his own plays instead. That's really what it was. Because I don't know. I brought this up last podcast. I'm going to bring it up again. Look at the red zone. Terrible red zone team with Ben Roethlisberger. Terrible red zone team with Kenny Pickett. If you're bad in the red zone with both of I can understand one. Maybe one doesn't fit the style, but it's both quarterbacks. That's just telling to me. And I don't know. My friend and I were just talking couldn't they have just tried to get someone else, even Byron Leftwich is now out there, but I don't know.
No, it's fair, and I agree with you. Like I said last podcast, the Steelers they have pieces. People want to say, oh, they're like the '80s Steelers. No, they're not. I disagree with that idea. Their offensive line, was a lot better last year than it was the year before. The receivers, they're still young. They can definitely get better. Najee Harris had another 1,000-yard rushing season. I mean, Pickett as a starter was 7-5, and that's 12 out of 17 games. So if you imagine he was a full starter in the other 5 games, not to mention he left the Ravens game with a concussion and came in late against the Jets. That's 2 other games. So, and those were both winnable games if he probably played the entire game. So, I think he has talent. Like, that's this idea that there's nothing special about him. I mean, there was other teams looking at him too. It wasn't just the Steelers. Like, you had the Saints, Panthers. Like, teams were interested in him, and it's just, this is why I'd rather have known commodities. There's really no known commodity in the NFL really when you try to draft a player. But looking back, I was so foolish to think that Malik Willis should be drafted. And not to say that he still can't be a good quarterback, but if you just watched him play last year, now I understand the Titans. I don't think they're as talented as the Steelers, but he just looked overwhelmed if you watched a lot of his games last year. And, I think he can throw the ball, but the completion percentage wasn't there. The running ability was there though, of course. But, Kenny Pickett is miles ahead of every quarterback drafted last year. So, I think you have to give him another year. I mean, hell, you do have to give him another year. He's a freaking first year. And, this notion that we need to get off quarterbacks after 1 year because they don't light up the stat sheet. That's just ridiculous to me, though. So,
yeah, I mean, they clearly just didn't watch the games enough, though. And
box score watchers,
they must have not They must have been not watching the game on Christmas Eve then, honestly. Because Derek, you could go back to our NFL preview from last year when we were projecting how the season was going out. I'm always high on Derek Carr.
Oh, of course.
And I even said before the season, I think this Raiders team's going to have a winning record, have a chance at, a playoff position. Devontae Adams had a good year. Derek Carr did have a good year, good first half of the year. His second half of the season was not good at all. I mean, that's part of the reason why they kind of benched him. And so, this is coming from someone who actually really likes Derek Carr as a player, thinks he's one of the more underrated quarterbacks. There's just no question you take Pickett out of those two. It's silly. I mean, I think the only one you would even consider doing that for is maybe Lamar Jackson. But even him, he's hurt constantly lately.
Past 2 years, he hasn't really been healthy towards the end of the year. But one more thing I want to say about that. So, this wasn't me teeing off on Derek Carr, the person or player. Like you said, I think he's been a really good quarterback. He's had to deal with a lot of nonsense with the Raiders, from coaches to players. And the team, they always didn't, not until recently, they always didn't field the best team around them too. So I kind of see a lot of similarities to his brother, what he had to do endure in Houston in the early 2000s. But, I mean, yeah, if he lands on the Jets, I think he can do really well. I mean, he still has some left in the tank. That's not an issue. But it just last year just fell apart pretty badly. So I do want to move on to my second quick hitter, though. So this one's going to be a lot more quicker. So Patrick Mahomes, I was doing the math because I was curious because, the Chiefs won the Super Bowl this past Sunday. And, he, as of course, those Gab Fest talk shows, is he the GOAT already? Where does he rank all the time? And, quite frankly, I have no idea. A lot of people were saying he's on the same level as Joe Montana and Tom Brady right now, which, 2 MVPs, 2 Super Bowls, you have an argument, but I don't know if I'd go that far yet. But I wanted to project out his stats long term. So the benchmark's probably Tom Brady. So I projected out Mahomes' stats for 23 years. And, bear in mind that he's probably going to get hurt at some point. He's probably not going to throw for 5,000 yards every year. But also, the NFL offense has changed, so also take that into consideration, though. So this is the absolute ceiling. So he's projecting right now to throw for over 118,000 career passing yards, 943 touchdowns, 230 picks. That's through the roof. That's his ceiling right now. So that's GOAT status, well, no doubt. So median average, I just said I used the average here, just 4,000 passing yards for the rest of his career, a season. He would still finish, if he stayed healthy, with over 100,000 passing yards, with 800 touchdown passes, and yeah. So he's on that tier. He's on that track. But the floor, I said just 3,000 passing yards a season from here on out. he would still have 93,000 passing yards, 700 touchdowns. Yeah, I don't need to say anymore.
He really is that guy.
He is.
It's just like I'm not gonna go ahead and say Mahomes and Brady yet, because let's get real. Tom Brady had 7 championships, and Patrick Mahomes couldn't beat a 40-year-old Brady. I'm just being honest.
No, that's fair.
But Patrick Mahomes can get to the point where he could be up there. I mean, I'm just going to be honest. He is that guy. I watched it in the Super Bowl this year. Whenever he needed to make throws, he made the throws.
I will say this about him against Brady. So the first game, they were tied, and the whole D Ford thing happened. So Brady did. At the end of the day, Brady did beat him. And then the Super Bowl one. I mean, we've talked about Mahomes had no offensive line. They were all banged up. But I mean, I will say the Buccaneers. I thought they were the better team though that year. I will give you that. But I just wanted to throw that out there. But I mean, just like even further. So like his record. So he's averaged 13 wins and 13 losses his first 5 years, which is like insane if you think about it. So if I project that out too, he's on pace for 300 career NFL wins, only 69 career NFL losses. Most guys have 100 if they play like a long time. His approximate value, so for Pro Football Reference, it's like a measuring stick of how valuable are to your team. Just for reference, Tom Brady, who many consider the GOAT, his is 326. If Mahomes plays for for a total of 23 years, his would be 428. So I mean, award projections. So Mahomes, he's been a Pro Bowler every year. So if he played for 23 years, he'd be a 23-time Pro Bowler, 9 league MVPs if you average out the years that he's won so far, and he'd have 9 Super Bowls. If we that's not going to happen, but like just like on the track he is, and just like averaging out the numbers. That's the kind of like resume he's had so far, and he's I don't like crowning guys GOATs, but like he's like if he wins next year again, it's gonna get harder and harder to argue that he shouldn't be in that conversation.
See, here's the thing, like I don't know, I just need to see this. In all honesty, he needs to win like 4 or 5 before I could talk to him with Brady. That's just my opinion.
Well, I mean, like no, like, I'm not saying he'll be the GOAT. Like he still has a long ways to go, and quite frankly, I don't see him playing 23 years. Maybe he'll play like maybe 15, 20, but 23, you're talking like 45 years old. And, like I said, like the medicine and the technology is there for guys to play well into their late 30s at a high level too, which I think he can because but at the same time, like injury, that's always a factor. And like, I don't know, we'll see. And like you don't know what the teams that look like around him 10 years from now. It's not going to be the same team, obviously. So, like I think right now he's the best in the game. That's not really a debate. I mean, if you want to, really the only guy that even has an argument maybe is Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. But after that, I would still take Mahomes anyway. But I just want to throw those numbers out there. Pretty astronomical if you ask me. And that was my quick hitters for the week.
Yeah, and I do want to say one more thing about Brady though. It's like he won a Super Bowl with like what's his face, Edelman and Chris Hogan as your 1 and 2.
No, that is true.
One was a quarterback in college, and the other one was a lacrosse player.
No, that's fair.
So,
but for Mahomes, like I can also argue that he lost his best receiver, and now mind you, he had Travis Kelce, but Brady also had Gronkowski. So I mean, and I understand that Kansas City's receivers are probably better still.
Well, they have Juju and MVS.
Well, yeah, but they're not number 1 receivers though. They're good receivers.
Neither are the Patriots ones.
But they were also solid too. I mean, I know they had Brady.
But Juju outside of the team he was on was able to get 1,000 yards receiving.
But
did Chris Hogan ever get 1,000?
No, that is true. But at the same time, he had Antonio Brown, and he was getting double teamed, so it afforded for him. And that's not taking away.
But he still almost had 1,000 yards without Antonio.
No, I understand that, but like,
which is better than Hogan's best season, which was without Brady. Was
no, but what I'm saying is like, Juju. By the time he was with the Steelers towards the end, they weren't using him for a deep threat. He was more so a possession guy, getting you 5 or 6 yards of play. And like, he's still a good receiver. Don't get me wrong. Like he's gonna be play for a long time as far as I'm concerned, but Antonio Brown, you have 1,400 yards, Antonio Brown, double teamed. They was getting double teamed, and Juju was oftentimes facing the second or third best cornerback. So and that's to his credit, he took advantage of that. And he had a great year, but it just afforded him the opportunity to really shine. And we saw once he left, and I understand that Ben, declined as well. That definitely is a big factor too. The production just wasn't there. And, it's not taking anything away from him. He's still a very good receiver, but that's just my opinion.
I do want to add, though, if you want to compare Travis Kelce this year to the year they won with those two as their 1-2 with Gronkowski, Travis Kelce this year might be one of the best tight ends.
I think Travis Kelce's better than Gronk all the time, honestly.
Yeah, me too.
No, I agree with that.
If you just break it down, Mahomes does have more, even if it's slightly.
Okay,
and MVS too. MVS.
No, he had a solid year. I mean, I don't know.
And let's talk about the running backs too.
No, they were good.
You had McKinnon and Pacheco.
Yeah, they were solid. Mm-hmm. No, everyone played their role well in Kansas City. Like that's I just think the whole. No, I will say I know there's the whole issue about now all the people thought the Chiefs would suck last year. No one thought that, but it was. I think if we go back to the podcast and made our predictions, I think I had them regressing a little bit. I'll be honest with you, but I still thought they were a playoff team. As long as you have number 15 as your quarterback, you're going to be in the mix every year. As long as he plays well, so I
think we said the Chargers had a shot.
Yeah, I probably said the Broncos too. If I did, I'm an idiot.
Here's the thing, though. I do have a bone to pick. I did say the Chiefs had a chance to win the Super Bowl, and I'm pretty sure every single person in America knew that the Chiefs had a chance to win the Super Bowl. I'm just the only reason I'm saying that was because Travis Kelce's just started rambling about how no one thought they were gonna win. You guys have Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. So I mean, I good for you for having fueling your own fire, but everyone knows that you're no underdog. The Chiefs are not an underdog. Everyone was rooting for the Eagles because they were the underdog because everyone considers Mahomes and Kelce as far from the underdog. So I just didn't understand that. I was just kind of confused about that, but I don't know how you feel.
So here's what I'll say. So I picked the Bills to win it, so I will give you that. But at the same time, though, I might have not picked Kansas City to win the Super Bowl this year. And even though I think Philly was favored against the Chiefs to win, most people, if you would tell them, so if I said the Bills would win the Super Bowl, and obviously they didn't, and if the Chiefs somehow won it, I wouldn't be surprised. I think that's what I'm trying to say. Because people are you picked the Bills to win, or they'll throw that back at you. But at the same time, I've always said this, and I'll say it till I die. As long as you have Patrick Mahomes, you have a chance, regardless of who I think is the better team. The reality is he's the best quarterback in the game, so that's pretty much why I fall in it, though.
And even last week, when I said, the Eagles, I'm gonna pick the Eagles. What did I say right after that? But they have Mahomes. Yeah. So I don't know. I was just confused on where he got that from. Because if you go on ESPN or you go anywhere, you're not gonna be looking at Joe Burrow. You're not gonna be looking at Lamar Jackson. You're gonna be looking at Patrick Mahomes. So
yeah, one more thing I want to say about that, though. I know you want to talk about Pitt, but last week I even said I'm going to pick the Chiefs to win. So you can't say I doubted you because I said my exact words were I cannot bet against Patrick freaking Mahomes. So yeah, you can't tell me that I'm a hater or X, Y, Z. It's just ridiculous.
And I just said you were better than Gronk too. But here's the thing. I guess Andy Reid just doesn't have them go on social media. That's just probably what it is.
Wait, I want to say one more thing about that. So Andy Reid. So Eric Bieniemy, I guess the Commanders are going to hire him to be their OC. I think that's ridiculous. I understand the NFL has an issue with hiring minority head coaches. I'm well aware of that. But the fact that he has to prove himself again, even though he's with Kansas City, I understand why he's doing it, why he's leaving the Chiefs. But at the same time, why are you leaving the Chiefs? You're literally down. It's literally a downgrade of a position. No matter how much Andy Reid actually ran the offense, what people want to throw out there. But I just think he should have been hired already. It's been 5 years. He's been the coordinator for the Chiefs. I don't know about his past history. I really don't care about that. I just think he should have been hired, and it's just ridiculous that he has to go to the Commanders now. And if it blows up in his face, he's screwed. So I just think that regardless, I hope he does well in Washington. But I mean, the quarterback rotation there is just significantly worse, and that's being very kind. So I wish him nothing but the best in Washington. But I just think, honestly, I'd rather be an OC in Kansas City, when you'll have the best quarterback. And, I just think Andy Reid, too, talking about retiring, And I feel like if he retired here pretty soon, Bieniemy, in theory, you'd like to think he'd be like the front runner for the head coaching position. But what do I know? I don't know. But that's all. That was my TED Talk. So.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a downgrade, and I agree, pretty much agree. I don't really have too much of a comment other than that on it, honestly.
So, I mean, we can just move on.
That's enough Chiefs talk. You know what?
We talk about Chiefs more than the freaking Steelers. We're in Pittsburgh.
Here's the thing with the Chiefs. I like Mahomes. I'm just going to be honest with you. I am a fan of Mahomes. And, I don't know what it is, though. It's just like, I don't like talking about the Chiefs too much, but at the same time, like, Mahomes is that guy. The team is that team. But that kind of, like, upset me saying that, like, no one expected him to win. You could go back on the podcast. I definitely did, like, say that they were going to go down slightly this year. I'd be lying if I didn't. But I also said that on previous podcasts that the Bills were going to win. But it was more of because of like, I wanted a happy ending. I said I still think the Chiefs, though. And even last week, I just said the Eagles because they've been the best team all year. But, and honestly, the Eagles could have won last week. So, I don't know. It was 38-35. Everyone on Twitter's talking about the hold call. I'm not gonna talk about the hold call because I'm already getting tired of it and stuff. I don't know how you feel about that.
Here's why I've come to the conclusion. Listen, NFL officiating is terrible. Like everyone knows that, but like it was the correct call, and I understand. Like, it came at the worst time. I'll give you that, but at the same time, even Bradbury after the game admitted that he committed the penalty. So that right there, that's just case closed. So that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
Well, we're here, and like I said, I'm not going to talk about it, but here at the 27-minute mark, I have another quick hitter for you. Juju Smith-Schuster, A.J. Brown. Juju, what did it say? It said,
Happy Valentine's Day, and then it just
I'll hold you when it matters the most.
Gosh. That was kind of. I'll give you that. Listen,
funny.
I know people got salty over that. I just think it's funny, honestly. Mm-hmm. I really did. Like, and that's one other. I don't want to spend the whole episode on the Chiefs, but like one more thing. Like, people hate Juju so much. There's a lot of guys in the NFL and just in life. And forget sports, politics, whatever you can think of. There is a lot more worse people in the world than Juju Smith-Schuster. And I just think people on Twitter that don't have really anything better to do than just complain about everything. I think they have too much time on their hands, and then maybe they just need to, focus on their family. How about that? Log off social media for a couple hours. Do something productive. So, thanks.
And I do want to add, too, I think that A.J. Brown commenting the whole entire thing about Juju,
and he wasn't out of the league.
He was hurt. He got hurt.
He's 25 years old. Like, seriously, come on.
He got hurt by someone that would probably lock you up in Simmons. So I mean, but here's the thing. Like, I don't know. It just I just thought it was just kind of uncalled for. Like, Juju, I'm fine with him tweeting that was great. I just don't get why so harsh. Like, Juju's like, wow, you got that off your chest. Shannon Sharp said something. He should have went back at him. He won the Super Bowl. He was the reason for that last call. I mean, Juju had a good game. He had how many receptions for like 70-something yards? He had a good year. His last year before he got hurt, it wasn't as good as the year when they had AB, but he still was good that year too. I don't know. That kind of annoyed me. A.J. Brown, you're a great wide receiver, okay? I mean, you don't need to like comment on that right now. I just thought it was unnecessary. How about you just go back out there and beat them next year, or just prove it next year instead of just knocking someone like. I don't know. That's just my thought on it. I think it's a waste of time and stuff like that.
No, I agree. Like, I do want to talk about Pitt basketball though. But one more thing I will say about that is though, like Juju. Well, I didn't mention that he didn't have Antonio Brown and X, Y, and Z. Ben Roethlisberger also was on the decline too, and that also had a big part in the way they utilized him. They kind of didn't use him the right way towards the end there as well. And not to mention the fact that he 1 year he was hurt, like you said. No, he was hurt 2 years. He was hurt most of 2019, or half of 2019, and then 2021 he's pretty much gone the entire year. So and then when he played 2019, he had freaking Duck Hodges and Mason Rudolph throwing to him. So I mean, come on, guys. There's going to be a drop off when you have those quarterbacks thrown to you. But I digress.
And here's the thing, like to say he's on his way out was kind of stupid because the Chiefs literally signed him the team with the best quarterback in the league signed him and planned on him being their number one guy. So I don't know how like the best team in the league that won the Super Bowl would sign someone who's on their way out to be their number one guy. I just don't know. That's just kind of confusing.
No, it's fine. And by the way, Mahomes didn't resurrect his career. Like his career was fine. He just didn't play, and like he just wasn't being used right. That's really what it came down to. And he's very reliable. He catches everything that's thrown to him too. He had like over 70% complete catch percentage this year. So this whole notion that he's a terrible receiver and like X, Y, and Z, I've just never understood that. And like it just goes back to like Russell Wilson, like people hate him because he's a Christian and all that because he sound kind of corny. It's just you just hate guys for the stupidest reasons, and like meanwhile there's guys X, Y, and Z doing terrible things, and we just kind of bat an eye. So that's how it is in society. Not to get like too serious, but we can go to Pitt basketball.
And I do want to add one more thing too. Like Juju could have very easily said, "Well, I was on my way out, but you were on your way out of Tennessee as well." Like they literally traded him for a first-round pick. Here's the thing. I thought it was a dumb move by the Titans. A.J. Brown had a great year, but, like, let's not act like, both your guys' career have been spotless. Because at Ole Miss, his year there, like, they weren't even allowed to be in a bowl game because of everything going on with Ole Miss. Shea Patterson ended up having to go to Michigan. And last year he got traded, too. So, I mean, it's just like, I don't know. It's just, I like A.J. Brown as a wide receiver. I think he's a great player, and I think he's better than Juju Smith-Schuster as a wide receiver. But I just thought, like, that was so low to me. And it was just a harmless joke, honestly. It was pretty funny. I'm sure Eagles players probably thought it was – Bradbury probably even got a laugh out of it, too. So, I don't know. I thought the whole situation was kind of stupid.
No, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I think we pretty much, like – you beat the heck out of that one, though. So, I mean, we can move on to the Pitt basketball if you want to.
We did beat the heck out of it, but we can. Let's beat the heck out of this one, too. Why is Pitt not ranked, right?
Because everyone hates Pitt, that's why.
Yeah, it's just like, listen to these wins. Okay. So, Miami. You beat the number 20 Miami. You beat Virginia, who's now in the top 5. You beat them. They only have 4 losses on the year. You beat at NC State. You win at NC State. They're ranked right now, and that was their only home loss. You beat North Carolina 2 times. You beat Northwestern on the road by 29 points. Northwestern on the road by 29 points, and you have just as good as wins as them. And they beat Purdue, and now all of a sudden they have more votes than Pitt. I don't know. It's just a little annoying to me, but, I mean, honestly, Pitt should be ranked. Here's another stat, too. 7 road wins. There are only 2 Power 5 conference teams that have 7 road wins. That's UCLA and Alabama, both in the top 10. You also have San Diego State and Houston, who also have 7+ road wins. Houston, top 10. San Diego State, top 25. Florida Atlantic's another team, 7+ road wins, top 25. It's mind-boggling to me that you could compare Pitt and their schedule to these teams. I mean, they started off the season 1-3. If you take away that 1-3 start, this team only has 4 losses. They only have 3 losses in the new year. They're on like a 7-game win streak right now, and I don't know. It's just mind-boggling, and I know what it is. They projected them to be 14th in the ACC. They're doing good now. They're 12-3 in the top of the conference, and you got teams ranked 4th. You got teams ranked 15th in Miami. You got Clemson, who wasn't ranked too long ago, who's at the top of the standings, too. You have NC State, who's ranked, who you beat. Pitt beat NC State, and they're ranked ahead of them. It's mind-boggling.
No, I mean, we kind of talked about it in depth, like, off the air, but I said, like, just the fact that they're not even, like, ranked is kind of embarrassing, honestly. And I told you this, I'm going to say it on the podcast, too. Like, at the end of the day, while, like, rankings matter more so in college football because, playoff seeding, but they don't really matter as much in basketball, and that's not to say that Pitt shouldn't be. They should be ranked. Like that's not even up for discussion at this point. Like what else do they have to prove, man? Like what do they have to win out and win the conference tournament too? Like guys, come on. Like this isn't rocket science. They're playing well. Just admit you were wrong. You made a mistake. They outplayed, quote unquote, your expectations, and they're a tournament team. Like, it's like, I just don't understand the respect. You even have these guys that make all these bracketology stuff. They're like, why is Pitt not ranked? Even fans that hate Pitt are like, why is Pitt not ranked? Like, this isn't rocket science. Just rank Pitt. Like, no one's saying that they should be number one. But the fact that they are right now, they are one of the best 25 teams in college basketball, and that is a fact. That is not an opinion. That is fact. So Jeff Capel, he's also gotten a lot of crap too over the years. I was actually like a defender of his, even going back to when they hired him, because like he had a good track record.
He recruited Blake Griffin,
future NBA Hall of Famer most likely. So I mean, listen, like he's been around Duke. He played at Duke. He was an assistant coach there as well. So he knows. He has a lot of connections. Can get players. You got a lot of good transfers this past year. Listen, Pitt was, they were in the basement for a long time, man. And the whole Kevin Stallings thing, like that you see with Louisville right now. They're going through a similar situation in their own right. Like that takes a long time to like get out of. And like people, he should be fired. Fire him. Like, okay, if you fire him, you're going to lose all the recruits he's gotten, and then guys are probably going to transfer too on the team. And then you're basically starting from scratch again with a new coach. So, for everyone that likes to fire coaches because their team's not playing well, that's the mindset we're in society. When things aren't going your way for a year or two, let's fire a coach. Let's fire this person. Let's get rid of this person. And you're seeing right now, what happens when you just like stand your ground and weather the storm. Now Pitt's actually a tournament team again. And, if they could, do some damage in the tournament, they might be like a fixture from here on out. Not to mention the transfer portal as well. So put some respect on Jeff Capel's name, because I know there's a lot of people out there, Pitt fans too, that wanted him fired.
And I want to add too. We talked about this on one of our first podcasts.
We did,
and we both kind of came to the agreement that you need to give him more time. And one of my points was, look who he's recruited. Honestly, this team, this might be a hot take, but they should have been a tournament team in 2019 or 2020, one of those years. And I can explain to you why. Xavier Johnson, he's at Indiana, top 15 team. He's hurt right now, but look how good of a player he's turned into. Yeah, Trey McGowan's a really good player. Justin Champagnie, he's in the NBA. Audie Tony played for Arkansas, a top 20 team, had a good run in the tournament last year. Three of those players, all four of those players left. Three of them left at the same time, in Johnson, in Tony, and in McGowan's. Thing is, you lost all those players. Imagine if they would have had all four of those players, and then you add John Hughley onto the team. I mean, let's get real. That would have been they would have had all those players last year. And instead, he had to rebuild again because they all transferred out. But look what he did. He went into the grad transfer portal. He picked up Blake Hinson from Iowa State. He picked up a player like Greg Elliott, who they needed a shooter. He could shoot the lights out. You got a legitimate point guard in Nelly Cummings. He's from Midland. He played at Lincoln Park, etc. Good player. Went to Bowling Green, Colgate. Colgate, a team that is a fixture in the what's it called?
Tournament.
In the tournament.
Yeah.
They're a lower seed, but like he has that experience. You have an experienced team, and the thing is, like, they always talk about to your point, it's fire coaches, and they just pound it into your head. And I know I just gave them crap for so they beat Purdue this year. Northwestern's a really good basketball team. They're 19-7 right now. Chris Collins is another head coach that he's constantly on the hot seat. Hey, they'll be the occasional 9 or 8 seed, but they're not the team. Listen, Pitt and Northwestern have every right to be ranked right now. Period. I'm just saying Pitt, though, did beat Northwestern by almost 30 points, and they've just been winning the games they've needed to win. And I don't know. Congrats to like Jeff Capel and this team. They just need to keep going now. And here's the thing: what sucks is like now if you lose to Virginia Tech tonight, which I think Pitt could beat them, but they're an underdog tonight. So I mean, I don't know. It just sucks that one loss will now all of a sudden get all their votes away. Meanwhile, they've beaten Virginia. They only have 3 losses in 2 months. Like, it's annoying.
So there's 2 things I'll say. So the first one is, you mentioned John Hughley. He's barely played this year.
Oh, he was out the rest of the season.
He's supposed to be the best player this year. So the fact that you had guys that are playing,
Johnson too.
The guy, I forgot he was a big recruit last year. So those are 2 guys you that were supposed to be your best players, and you're playing this well without them. Imagine when you get those guys back next year, and so you're all gonna be young, and then you're gonna have a chance to go back out in the transfer portal and get guys again. Like, this is a team that could like really start to churn the wheels here and be like a consistent NCAA tournament fixture if things go right. So I'm just saying, like, and then that too, I forget my second point, but I'm sure it had something to do with Jeff Capel. And like, it's just like, we see it with coaches, with Mike Tomlin too. It's like, because we're not winning a Super Bowl every other year, it's like, oh, he has to be fired, or fire this guy, fire X, Y, and Z. And then like, it's just, and that's another argument. I don't want to go sideways, but like, another criticism I've heard a lot recently of Tomlin is he never has like a coaching tree of guys that are like successful head coaches. But my argument to that would be, look at the head coaches around the NFL. A lot of those guys, are like recycled. They've coached before. So this whole notion that like it's just like, oh, you have to have guys under your tree all the time, like, that's just not really accurate, because a lot of these guys, they know each other in some capacity. There's connections, so that's why they get hired again. If you really think about it, the NFL is really comprised of guys who've had past head coaching jobs. A lot of candidates really aren't that new. Very few of them. It's just like a recycle. It's like basketball too. Just recycled. Guys get fired here and there, and then they're recycled again.
Oh, hockey too. Like Bruce Boudreau, Barry Stotts, like
Peter Laviolette. Forgot he's on 4 teams.
He's been on more teams than Ish Smith. Like, come on at this point. Like,
yes. So like, yeah, I say all that to say that, like, once again, you have to like give some coaches. In the case of Jeff Capel too, he was dealt a really bad hand at Pitt. They were just coming off winning no conference games the year before. And you just think he's going to come in here and they're going to be a tournament team in 2 years. That's just so unrealistic. And, I understand it took a long time, but that's just part of the reality, man. And, Pitt, they're finally getting to that point now where hopefully people take them more seriously from here on out, because, like they deserve all the praise they're getting now. But, okay, my second point popped in my head now. So my thing was, Pitt's done really well being the underdog. We talked about Kansas City thinking they're the underdogs. Pitt, I think, in a cruel, twisted sense, I want Pitt to remain unranked, because if that means they'll stay focused and keep playing well and keep having the mentality, I think that would serve them well. But, at the same time, like, they should be ranked. Like, that's not really what I'm arguing. What I'm arguing is I think Pitt's thrived a lot this year. They've had a lot of adversity. They were trailing against Virginia for a lot of that game. I mean, they could have. Those North Carolina games were 50-50 as well. So they have adversity on their side. They know what it takes to win games, close games especially. So, Pitt, they've just been clutch all year, honestly. And it's really been fun to watch. I know, like, I've been labeled a lot of things about Pitt, and I'm a Pitt hater, I'm a Pitt this. But, like, I at the end of the day, I really want Pitt football and basketball to succeed, because those – in the reality, college sports, those are the 2 most profitable sports, football and basketball. And if your team is good and you get fans to go to the game, that brings a lot of money into your school, and that makes a lot of people happy. So, I'm just saying.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I had a point that I just feel like ever since Pitt joined the ACC, though, they've kind of been like, they went from Big East powerhouse, and like they've been kind of just treated as like an underdog of the ACC. Even that you see it this year. But I want to bring up another example. They moved to the ACC 2012-13. They got really unlucky. Let's get real. I mean, they drew Wichita State, and they ended up going on that
Final Four.
Yeah, Clanton Early and Ron Baker. And then, so that was like they had Steven Adams that year, and they had Talib Zana.
Was that that year?
12-13, yeah.
That was the Wichita State year?
Yep.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, they had like, I think it was like Trey Woodall. It may have been Woodall's last year. But then you had 13-14 too. So I'm just like, this is, now they're in the ACC. And I remember saying they were a 9 seed in that tournament. And mind you, they are coming off an ACC tournament where they beat a really good North Carolina team. like a number 4 team in the ACC, North Carolina team, solid team. You beat this team, and Talib Zanna has 26 and 23 in that game, and you get ranked as a 9 seed, and then you go out there and you beat Colorado with Spencer Dinwiddie by 38 points in the tournament as a 9 seed over an 8.
And then you get Florida.
And then you get Florida. Yeah.
They were
talk about poor seeding, right?
But like you mentioned that, so poor seeding. So you mentioned a lot of the brackets have Pitt as an 8 or a 9 seed right now, and a lot of them, I think Purdue would be the 1 seed. Now, I will say this: Purdue, they just lost to Northwestern, so anything's possible. But that would be a really bad matchup. Let's say Pitt wins their first game. Like, you have to go against Edey, really? That's
Well, they don't have. Well, you're right about that, because I don't think they match up great against them, because Edey is 7'4".
He's 7 foot, and like
Federico, he was not supposed to be the starting center.
Yeah.
I know he's not done terrible, but their strong suit is their weakest part is their interior defense, honestly.
Yeah, and like, not to say that they couldn't beat Purdue if you catch them on an off night. I mean, that's why March Madness is March Madness. But it's just like Pitt, they need to be, if they keep winning, they should be higher than an 8th seed. But like, I don't know. I just think the disrespect's ridiculous, and like, it's just really. I'm not even like a super fan, but like, it's kind of really annoying now. Honestly, it's not even funny. Like, and then maybe that's me being like petty, but like, it's just annoying, really. They need respect, and it just goes back to people, so-called experts. Oh, well, Pitt's going to be sucky this year, and they're going to finish 14th out of 15th in the ACC conference, and now they're number 1 in the whole conference. We're going to nitpick every little thing they've done wrong so far. Oh, you lost to Vanderbilt. Oh, you lost to Michigan early in the year. They're not even ranked. Well, listen, it's not about how you start. It's how you finish, and right now they're finishing pretty strong, so put some respect on their names, y'all, man. Seriously.
And another thing, too, is like, they always say, oh, ACC's down. But the past 2 years, who's been in the Elite Eight? It's ACC teams.
Oh.
I agree. And, like, Miami, case in point. Everyone, if you watch Miami play, that team was not a 10 seed last year. They went in there and went into the Elite Eight. So it's just like, it's one of the, and Pitt beat Miami this year. So, like, but my point exactly is, oh, it's ACC's this, ACC's that. Meanwhile, I'd mentioned the Pitt beating Northwestern. ACC beat the Big Ten in their conference. Listen, SEC, that's a great conference right now. That stacks up with the ACC. Big 12, if you look at the Big 12 and how they've done against non-conference, probably the best conference. But the ACC is right up there with any conference in the league. It's not down. I mean, look, case in point, look at the conference records. Look at the amount of teams. Well over half the league is under 10 losses. And I understand that there's Louisville at the bottom and Georgia Tech and stuff at the bottom. But Georgia Tech can put up fights against teams whenever they need to. I mean, there's not, other than Louisville and then Florida State is having a down year, there's not a lot of teams in the conference that are just flat out bad. It's a deep conference, and that just, I don't know. That's just my thought on it. Yeah.
No, it's up. I'll read them. So Virginia's 20-4. You have Pitt 19-7. You have Miami at 21-5. You have Clemson at 19-7. NC State at 20-7. You have Duke at 18-8. Wake Forest at 17-9. Even Syracuse at 16-10. UNC at 16-10 as well. So like, I mean, that's like what, 6? That's 9 teams. So you have 9 good to solid teams in that conference, and like, you know, it's just ridiculous. And by the way, Pitt has the best away record in the whole conference. By the way. It's better than Virginia, better than Miami, better than Clemson, better than Duke. Duke's has terrible road record. They're 2-6. So I mean, listen, it's just we've outlined the past 10 minutes where we've been talking.
Duke was ranked over Pitt at a point.
Yes, and North Carolina was the prohibited number 1 preseason number 1 team in the country, and I'm not disrespecting them. It's just like they're a good team still, but it's not that they're bad. It's just like there's a lot of good teams, and even Syracuse, they've had a solid year. Wake Forest, 17-9. Duke's, down year, but it's still a good year. NC State 20-7. Clemson, having a good year so far, 19-7. Virginia, they're Virginia. They're a good program. So it's just Pitt's just had a good year too. So that's all we're saying. Like, all we're saying is just put respect on Pitt's name. That's all I'm saying. It's really not that hard. Really not that hard at all.
But then, like, people will give UNC and Duke crap, but then you look at their non-conference record. Like, Duke's 8-2 non-conference, and look at their non-conference schedule. UNC, yes, they lost games. They're having a very bad season for what they were supposed to have. But if you look, they're 8-3 non-conference. That's still a good non-conference record. I mean, if you look at the non-conference records, I mean, Pitt actually probably has like one of the lesser non-conference records, but even they had a winning non-conference record. So it's just like the team has been playing good outside of conferences. They prove it every single year in the tournament. It's just, I mean, everyone thought, oh, Arizona's going to win, or Gonzaga's another team this year. Like, they're still ranked. Meanwhile,
they're 13th. And haven't they had a couple of pretty bad losses?
And they lost like San Francisco and like.
If that was Pitt, they would have been not ranked.
They lost to Loyola Marymount.
How are you still ranked?
Because their names.
Well, okay, well I know why they're still ranked, but I'm saying if that was Pitt, if you had two unranked teams, you'd have been out of the standings, and you probably wouldn't have gotten back the entire year. Like that's still another issue too. It's just like there's always a double standard. Well, no, not even so much. It's that blue blood programs, they get the benefit of the doubt. So if they screw up or if they have a really bad loss, they're not going to get penalized as much as a team that maybe the media or coaches don't really respect as much. They have a lot less wiggle room, and that's what we're seeing with Pitt. So if Pitt screws up, they're screwed. But if like Duke or I don't know, let's say Alabama or Houston, and any Big Ten team, if they have a really bad loss, they might drop 2 or 3 spots. But like, gosh forbid, if Pitt's ranked 15th and they lose to, I don't know, Wake Forest or Louisville, they're not ranked. So there's just a double standard. It's not just basketball, it's football as well. So I don't know.
Yeah, their losses are to Loyola Marymount and St. Mary's. St. Mary's is a good team. But Loyola Marymount, and then they just beat Loyola Marymount their second time by a lot. But they lost them the first time. And I just in conference play too, like they're 11-2 in their conference, but they're still a top 15 team. It just in that conference, I just don't.
Oh, it's not even. Come on.
I was watching San Francisco the other night. I think they were playing. Yeah, San Francisco and St. Mary's a couple weeks ago.
Oh gosh.
And like you saw it last year, Indiana went out there and roughed up St. Mary's. So, or wait, who won that? I think. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure Indiana won that with Xavier Johnson and stuff, but yeah. No, that's just my opinion on it. So
no, I mean, yeah, so I mean, I don't know if you had anything else for this podcast, but we've been on for 50 minutes, man. So I mean, if you have anything else you want to add.
Oh, I was wrong. St. Mary's was the one who roughed up Indiana. Correction. But like I said, St. Mary's is a good team. I did want to correct myself before we left. But I did have just ideas on what we could do, like predicting like a best team to win out of the NCAA, but instead I'll just do a quick little rundown. Kansas I think they have a really good shot with Jalen Wilson and Grady Dick. Alabama, Brandon Miller's been great. Just need to make sure they have enough depth. I think they have a chance. Purdue's good. They have 80. I don't know if they have enough depth to make it all the way through the tournament. Houston has incredible in scoring and stuff like that. But yeah, Kansas I think would be up there. Houston looks really good. Texas, even though they lost their head coach, they're an older team, so you always got to kind of give the edge to older teams. But my sleeper team, this one might catch you, is Kansas State. I think Kansas State has a chance to make a run. They only have 6 losses this year. They're right at the top of the Big 12. But the main reason is because you have a really solid guard. You have a really solid forward. You have a little bit of both there. Both are averaging. So Keontae Johnson, averaging 17 points a game. He was transferred from Florida. Marquise Noel, he's been there for a while. He's averaging 16 points a game, 16 or 17 points a game. Listen, if you have 2 studs like that, and you also have some good secondary scoring as well, some good third option, fourth option. I mean, you have like 4 or 5 players averaging over 10 points a game. Team scores a lot of points. Their defense is pretty solid. They've beat Kansas this year already. Team's good. Only 6 losses. Most of their losses are coming in that brutal conference. I wouldn't be shocked if Kansas State could make a run for something. Like I said, I'm not going to say right now that they're going to win the tournament, but I think that they're a sleeper team.
Fair enough. Anything else you want to add? Because I got nothing else for you, bud.
Yeah.
All right, I guess it's a good time to say do our wrap up though. But as always, you can find our show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts. Just search the Rossetti and Stewart Podcast. Always a pleasure doing a podcast with you every weekend here in a barren Pittsburgh media up, though, but appreciate it.
Likewise, man. Likewise to you. It's always a pleasure coming on here talking sports. We're also looking to have a couple more guests on.
Oh,
too.
yeah. Speaking of that, so I know Tony has his guest. I'm talking to 3 people, pretty prominent. Well, 2 prominent in the Pittsburgh media. One's more of a national guy, but it's kind of tough, man. They have very busy schedules, so we're just kind of going back and forth right now, trying to find dates that work for them. So it's kind of difficult. So those might not be for a while, but I know Tony has a lot of high school, college guys connections. They're easier to get, so we'll probably have more of those guys on here in the foreseeable future. We were talking a couple days ago about that. So I do like to have people that like. Professional people in the industry that on too. I think that's definitely a plus, but there's nothing wrong with having high school athletes on either. I mean, that's a plus in its own right as well. So, look for more guests in the future. We're definitely gonna have a lot more. I'm also going to start talking to other people for guest spots as well too, not just the 3 I mentioned. So stay tuned for that though. But for Antonio Rossetti, I'm Justin Stewart. You've been listening to the Rossetti and Stewart Podcast. We'll do it again here pretty soon. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.